And today we are welcoming Mr. Enrique Rojo Asín, who we will deliver two sessions today and in another 2nd of April, I think is the next one. And Mr. Enrique is architect as well as all of our lecturers. And he's got his degree in the School of Architecture at the University of Navarra. But later he moved out to Sheffield in the UK and he did his master's in conservation and regeneration. Currently, he's pursuing his PhD in the University of Navarra and he's teaching there with a beautiful topic for research that is the European influence in Japanese architecture. It's a pity that he cannot discuss with us such a nice topic. He will focus more in how to apply artificial intelligence in architecture. But it's true that even though he's still young, he has an extensive experience in architectural design, in conservation and urban regeneration. He has co-founded a firm called ARROVA, it's a multidisciplinary architectural practice, and he has already not only participated, he has obtained several awards in prestigious competitions, and he's also lecturing in not only in the University of Navarra, also in different renowned institutions. And his main area of research, apart from the influential European architecture in Japan, the Japanese architecture, also he is trying to integrate the theoretical and the practical application of new technologies. We were discussing with him this morning and he told us that there are some areas where he's going to overlap, let's say, with the session of Mr. Fernando Alonso, in the sense that he will also try and also that will help to fix some ideas that you may have already watched in the previous video, but how to generate or regenerate the images. But he's going to focus more in how to apply and how to transfer these images into a specific project. So that is, let's say, the step forward that this session will take. It's not only how we generate the images, so how we integrate them in our project. So he's intending to give today a more theoretical session, and next session will be more practical with some exercises that he will share with us. So the floor is yours, Enrique. You can start. I think we can all see your first slide of your presentation already. We have already told everybody, and usually people may ask some questions in the chat. So to be ready that I stop you at some point so that you can respond the questions. At the end, if not, there will be this session of questions and answers. Also, he has attended the session of Mr. Fernando, so that if there are some questions regarding also the previous session, he will be today happy to reply. Even though in the next session, the last one, Mr. Fernando Alonso will be also joining us. But in case you have any kind of question, he's there to answer if he is able to for his session and the previous session as well. So the floor is yours, Enrique. All the best and welcome again. Thank you very much for being with us.
No, thank you, Maria Belén, for your nice introduction. So as you said, this topic is going to be focusing on how to apply these new technologies of artificial intelligence for architectural visualization. So that's why in some phases I will step on the last topic that Fernando Alonso did last session, because that part is like more basic part, but then it's like the initial one. So that's why I think we can answer some questions about it at the end of the session. So in any case, I will start. So why I think it's really important, no? Because these new tools as an architect are transforming, the conceptualization and visualization of architecture. And as an architect, we try to to produce these beautiful images, not only to have confidence ourselves in our project, but also to sell it to the clients or to the clients or to do some competitions. But the thing is, like, sometimes we think that these images are like the final step of the process, and it's not like that, because we need to integrate it through all these different stages, and we need to be able to articulate them. And that's why I think it's important to know how to use this artificial intelligence, these diffused models, wisely, so we don't lose the opportunity to be more effective and to do more what we like, that in the end is just develop the project, not really spend time producing these final documents. No? So, for example, this Olivier Campagne, which is a French professional 3D visualizer, he's one of the persons that is trying to push a lot with these new technologies for his renderings. And as you see, he thinks that using wisely these tools allows him to be more critical about what you are doing. It's not like, okay, we let the AI generate images. No, it's like, okay, now that I generated this, it's like, how can I improve what I've already done? Because in the end, the AI is referring to some already built constructions. So that also makes you be more confident on what you are trying to achieve. It's like, okay, this doesn't look good. This looks better. So it's, again, a process of refining your vision, which I believe it's so important, because we need to be more precise. And that's what we are trying to do today, and also in the lesson, to be more precise about your images, to have more control about them. Okay. So, as I said, at the moment when we are using CAD software, which is obviously already developed, and all architects are using it because it's much better than using hand drawing, no? But still, we spend like 1/3 of our time developing the project, and then for the submission period, we are using a lot of time to be ready for all these plans or these images. No, so with these new technologies of BIM, for example, apparently we are going to be able to use less time for producing the images or the plans, because they use standardized objects, and more time for project development. This also leads to some of the problems that I will also talk about it, because when you use 3D models, even though they are standardized, you need more graphic power. So you cannot use mostly regular computers. You need high-end computers. That's also a problem, and we will see how this ends up for BIM, for example. No? But with this new available artificial intelligence, the goal is to keep in that path and use more time developing the project. No, so you take the decisions, and then in the end you are ready to just submit your project, and you spend less time producing all this material. No. There's also this problem that maybe if we take this too far, the AI could generate the projects and conceptualize, which would be also bad. That's why I think we need to know how to use the tools, so this AI doesn't become a substitute of the human creativity, so we are still in control. And as you can see, there are now, I will show you this video that, for example, there are new AI developments that can even help us further to produce in new ways. That, for example, instead of drawing, you can talk to the computer, to the machines, which could increase the speed of the creation of 3D models, for example, for our projects. No, so as you will see in the video, this is just an illustration of how, given some text instructions, the AI can recreate a construction in 3D in the program Blender, that maybe it's a free program that can be used in Mac and PC, which is also good and has a good renderer, and many 3D designers use it. So as you can see, you know how to grasp that these technologies can help us produce much quicker. No?
We cannot listen. I don't know if there is
No,
sound. We cannot hear, but maybe there is not sound.
no, there's like just a background music,
Okay.
but
Okay.
well, but in this case, that you see that this technology is not mature enough these days. So instead of, you know, I just wanted to show you that, but we will concentrate more on the topic, you know, which is in, you know, images and how to apply the artificial intelligence in our own project. So, as I said before, it's important to emphasize the idea of that implementation of using the AI on every phase and not just at the end of the project. Because if you know, in this way, we can think of the AI for as a generative tool, but also as a applied tool, more as, for example, to the collage technique. No, that in the end, the collage was a technique that was manual, obviously, in the early days, but now it's totally digital production tool. And there are some analogies between these diffuse models and the collage that, for example, Mario Carpo has dealt with this, has some and wrote some essays about it. And I think it's good to know this relation to understand that these technologies and these techniques are closer than you may think, no? And think about how the creativity in this kind of field of architecture is similar in both of cases, no? So, you know, that's why we use collage, no? In the end, it's we still use it in many cases, even though it's 100 years old technique, but apart that it produces some beautiful images, it's also the freedom that allow us to get some accuracy, but still have some freedom to the to the project, no? So we can still develop. So the idea is there, but it's not like the final product. And I think with AI we can mimic this process, but also accelerate it, no? Which is in the end one of the goals of using these new techniques. So, for example, now if we compare the collage, as I said, it's a precursor to image generation. No, so because it involves cutting and assembling different images, that it's also what you do when you start using these machine learning technologies, because that's how they train and that's how they refine the image. No, like making collages of every pixel they know. Also, when you contextualize and you give meaning to a place, no, when you do the collage and you put it in the background, it's the same, no? It's like these tools like DALI or Stable Diffusion can generate images that evoke that juxtapositions that you want with the collage, no? And that's the interesting thing when you are in control of it. In the same case, no, with sample and remixing, you know, it's like you select and arrange elements, and in this case, and with AI models also, as they are trained on past data sets, you know, they learn from so many images to generate new compositions. So in the end, you are also taking some elements to create a new whole, no? Obviously, as I said, with the manual and automated control, that's also the tricky part, no? It's in traditional collage, it's entirely manual, so you can control the entire process. With these generated images, as they are more automated, maybe you are not in that control, but that's the point, no? That in the end, try to tune all those images to get the same final input. And finally, well, not finally, but it's a hybrid approach. Even though the collage was manual, it was also like blending some techniques that used to make it traditional techniques also, no? So it's like, as we see with Photoshop, no? It's like you have layers that in the end mimic how you did the original collage, no? So the AI in the end is the same because you add some layers of complexity that helps to fill out the composition, no? But it also has this part, no? That in the end it's like as you used all the time elements that are already built, you return somehow to those times where you need to. I don't think it's just imitation, but it's somehow of again using some styles, like reinterpret it. So that's also that maybe was a bit forgotten these last years in architecture schools, but these techniques, I think they will bring back that kind of thinking also. As you see, for example, these are examples of collages, but they are done digitally with architectural intelligence done by A2A, Swiss architects based in Zurich. And, when they have this kind of knowledge that, it's Pierre Koenig, this a mythic house in Hollywood Hills, so they do on some apartments in London for a competition, but in the end, they are somehow imitating, reinterpreting that style and also the image. So, or in this case, well, they this kind of images, it's called museology that you can find in the web. So it's also a kind of a collage, which I think also brings the idea that it's good to use these tools, these generative tools, when somehow you already have this historical background, that when you already have developed some projects. So and also when you are used to deal with more primitive ways of image production, because that allows you to have a better background, so you are better prepared to use the AI as an adaptative tool, and not just as a tool that generates the image by themselves. That's why I always say that probably it's better for students to start learning or deal with AI in the last courses and not in the early ones, because I think they still need this background, this knowledge, so they can be critical when they use new techniques of production. So as I said, I will focus on text plus image somehow to produce an image instead of text to image, because that added layer of image, which I will explain later, that's how you add that complexities, that layers that allows you to produce the images related to your own projects. Okay, but still, as I said, I will show you how text to image works and some of the applications that I know Fernando showed you before, as Midjourney, DALL-E, Leonardo, and the offline or web-based that are the stable diffusion of flags. And it's important to understand that many of these web-based are indeed, using, it's like user friendly, but in the end, they use a workflow that it's based on a checkpoint, a prompt, and a sampler. I think that you already talked obviously about the prompt, but what it looks like this. So you load a checkpoint, which in the end is like the base of the artificial intelligence. It's like that database that you connect to a prompt. As you see here, you can have a positive conditioning or a negative conditioning, then you need a sampler who denoises all the data, and then you obtain the image. So this workflow, which seems quite basic, is what lies behind when you use, for example, Midjourney or DALL-E. Although you don't see these connecting dots, no, because it's like more friendly, it's like friendly user interface, so everyone can use it. But this is what lies behind, and this is important to have it in mind, okay? Because it will get more complex when we advance. No? So these checkpoints, no, I think Fernando already discussed, but in the end, it's like this algorithm that can take like between 4, 6, 8, 12 gigabytes because it takes a lot of images to train them. But in the end, this is what the diffuse models are based on. No? As you see, these diffusion models could be, the most popular, for example, are Stable Diffusion 1.5, Stable Diffusion XL, or Flux. But what is important is that the checkpoint, which is, in the end, an archive based on this model, they are developed not only by these companies, but all people around the world. But it's important that you know that checkpoints only work when you use the original model. If you use, for example, Realbis SDXL with Flux, it won't work. And that's important, okay? And again, it seems maybe that these models seems like so new, but for example, in the early 90s, when Herzog and de Meuron, that Swiss-based architects, starting to improve 3D rendering and architecture visualization because they invested a lot in this kind of technologies. No, they were one of the first. They started photographing elements, no, doors, materials, roofs, all these kind of things, even the skies. So in that way, they have all these elements and they could compose an image that later will be rendered. And that's how, in the end, these databases are trained. No? So I think it's important to understand that it's not that new, that you could also do this manually, but also it's a lot of time consuming. No? Then obviously you have the prompt, which you condition all these databases. You're trying to give like a kind of an instruction, an order, so you can somehow refine. And then you have the sampler, no? That because the image generates a completely random image, but then this noise, these pixels, you know, come back and forward until you get the image. No? So these pixels start redefining until you get the final product. No? In the end, it's like when you have P that has so many numbers. So in the end, you are like obtaining each number, each step. No? And in the end, for example, just a quick reminder of the last lesson. So, for example, if you write like Mies van der Rohe, House with Glass and Mirrors with Columns, no, a photograph by Erras Toller, one of the most important photographs of the 50s, 60s, and 70s, no, and then you obtain these kind of examples that, in a way, are similar to what we already saw with H2A with missiology, for example. But as we say, no, only by words you don't have enough control over the building form itself. So that's why we will introduce some elements to the workflow that, although it makes the process more complex, I think it also gets more interesting for us architects, as we can then choose from our projects. Then again, we have applications that are more user-friendly and have sliders instead of these dotted connections and programming, which could be Visoid or Prom AI, Veras, which has been bought already by this big company Chaos, which is one of the most important companies in 3D rendering, or Crea. But still, we still have this stable diffusion or PC-based models with flags and stable diffusion. But in this case, now that as you will see that we add some things like the LoRa or the control nets or the upscaler to the workflow. These elements makes you, if you want to not use these web-based applications, to have a really high end PC. Not even a Mac with the latest chips, probably only PC, and it's best recommended to use with NVIDIA GPUs, which are obviously pricey, but that's the only way if you want to have like total control. And that's why for these offline applications that are installed in your computer, I think you need to have in mind that maybe this kind of option is only for professionals or for groups of university that try to investigate some things on this topic, but maybe not for everyone. Okay. So as I said, when we had the original workflow, we had the checkpoint, the prompt, and the sampler, but now we are introducing more elements. So you will say, well, like, okay, what's the LoRa? No, it's like I don't understand. So, but you see, it's becoming more complex. Now you introduce your own image, and then you have starting more filters. You still have the checkpoint. You still have the negative prompt or the positive prompt, the sampler, but still you add more elements, and it can become so complex like this. That's amazing, but usually for our job, I would say our work as architects, we don't need that such complex workflows. So it's better to focus on these ones, which are okay, more complex than the other one, but I think it's manageable. But okay, so what's this LoRa? It's like low rank adaptation of large language models. So in the end, this is like to add new concept and styles to this diffusion model. So it's like a patch that you apply in the end to the original model. And what is great about these LoRa's is that these models, they are small in size and are also connected to the prompts. So you have much more control of what the image will look like, and also you can define the weight of this LoRa to the final image, how much it will influence. And also that thing that I really think it's really nice, it's that you can train them. The original diffusion models are super expensive. It's really difficult for a person or even to, as I said, an investigation group in university to train these models. But for the LoRa's, it's easier. So that's maybe a topic that you are interested because it's easier and it also helps a lot to redefine how the image will look like in the end, as you will see. So because as you can train them, you put the prompt, and when you start with one image, and then in the end you end up with 130 images, and from those you can choose which one are the ones you like, and in that way you obtain a file that is like, okay, this suits my style. For example, with this one, as you can have like a regular building or like a model or like a sketch, and this is because they use some LoRa's, and these LoRa's have a style. For example, the last one is like a sketch, like a drawing by hand style. The other like a real model style, or the other one like a real building. So these styles can be obtained if you train these models, which for those of you that you don't want to train, obviously, there are already some available, which are really nice. For example, this this architect, this Maril Selite, which works for Foster and Partners, for example, has been developing for at least 2 years this new LoRa's, and as I said, he has different styles. He has like to produce images regarding real models or with sketches. He has even one to produce like interiors, like with Japanese style and so on. No, so I think he's really interesting figure that I think you should check on to learn more about this LoRa and how they can help you. And let's see, because it has a video, so you can see from this image that starts with a like a real model. In the end, you end up with other styles. No. Again, it has some music. I think you cannot hear it, fortunately. But you see, no, how from the start they produce a lot of images, no, that are quite similar, but in the end with small variations, and you end up with this one that is the one you like, no, from this one to the other. Okay, so the other important part that we added, another part to control even more our result than that we introduce in our workflow is ControlNet. No? ControlNet is composition conditioning. Obviously, just with these words, we know that we are even refining more the image, and we are again once more in control. No? But with ControlNet are neural network structure that control these diffusion models. No? And they add extra conditions. I think the ones that are more usable for architects and to produce images are the canny, the depth, and the segmentation models. No, as you will see, when you have an original image and you have these control nets, when you produce the canny-driven control, what you obtain is like only the perimeter with lines. No, with the depth-driven control, you have like this image that adds obviously depth to the image. So when the AI renders the image, it has some depth of field, and then you have this segmentation, no, with colors, so they can understand better the figures, and they can concentrate on rendering some parts depending on this segmentation. No? And as you can see, for example, no, here with this segmentation, that it's probably the latest control net available because it's the one that it's latest developed. You have a lot of control, and it also introduces a new way of that it's quite organic, as you will see in the next video, because you can have results just by moving these objects with colors, no? And then in real time, when you change these figures, suddenly the image also starts to change. So this is it's already, as I said, it's the latest control net available. I think it has a great potential, and it's not already fully developed. But for example, Carlos Bañón is a professor at Singapore University of Design and Technology. He's developing an app called Forma.ai that it seems to be quite promising, uh, but we will see, no? But for now, for example, with this example, this is also from a Spanish architect called Fernando Castelo, who is also dealing with this kind of how to generate images with this segmentation. So you can see, no, with this form, and suddenly how it evolves when you move, and still you can realize that you have like these three boxes that are moving around, and how that makes the building evolve. No, so that's why I think this has a lot of potential, and looking forward on how this kind of these new techniques develop in this case. Okay, so now I will show you some examples that I did with the students here at the University of Navarra. And I will start with the most basic ones to, like enhancing, iterating, like imitating 3D models, but, so you can see the potential of what I try to explain in this lesson. No? So you can start, for example, no, with this prompt and a sketch, and in the end, you get this render. So compared to just the basic workflow, in the end, when you have this idea and somehow you know more or less how the form of the building is, you can also add the background materials. So I think in that sense, like a quick tool to somehow grasp the atmosphere of the building that you are designing. Other cases, for example, is from a sketch to a model. In this case, this is a drawing of Álvaro Siza, no? And for example, this is just a sketch of an unbuilt building, but then you can produce a model that imitates a real one. That, for example, for competitions where you are not allowed to send the real model, it's really helpful because you don't need to produce these expensive models, but still you have a great looking picture that shows the materiality, the weight of the stone, the shadows, and that helps a lot, I think, to express the idea of your building. Or, for example, from a real model to an image. For example, this is a model of a student, and again, just with a prompt, just talking about these concrete structures of Robert Maillard in Switzerland with a mountain and all concrete, then you obtain this kind of image that obviously can be even improved. But still, for example, for a student that took only like 2 hours to develop this image, trying to iterate between these applications, it's obviously much, much better than just starting with Photoshop or just trying to model all this building with more detail and trying to blend it with the terrain and the hill, which is also always super difficult, no? Or for example, from a technical drawing, no, to an image, if you are used to do axonometrics or these kind of sections, you can also give the image more depth or more or real materials. This is a section of one of the things in a little town for a project here in Spain, or if we have this. Sorry. For example, in this one that you have a technical drawing as an axonometric, so you can obtain like a real model, no? And you take this time to draw all these junctions of the stone, and you see the result, no? Which is quite nice because in the drawing sometimes it can be a bit too abstract, no? So that's a technique that allows you to have more control in the project, and that's why I'm saying, like, okay, you can use them through different phases of the project, not only in the end, like from the start to the beginning, no? Then if you already done like a 3D model, for example, you can get some variations. Again, you have this 3D model of this nice white structure, and with the prompt and control net, then you can get different options of how this structure could evolve, or so that's when you are trying still to, you are not final with the form of the project, and you are still trying to grasp that kind of structure that really suits the project. That's also helpful. And from, if you have an original render which is not that good, for example, but you can again do like a 3D model that resembles like a real model done in a photography studio, no? And you see it's a super basic 3D done in Rhino, and suddenly with the wood, the black background, the light, it's like it becomes, it seems to be alive compared to the other one, no? And for example, when you want to enhance, if you already do your model in, I don't know, in SketchUp, in Rhino, in whatever program you want, so you have these basic materials, but with the prompt and all these controls and the styles of the LoRa, then you can have a much better looking image, no? That you can show to a client. And in the end, that's the goal of this, or this example of a student, no, in a project in Vienna, that it's rendered not so well with was I think already in Rhino, which doesn't have like a good render motor inside the program. And now with the AI, we improved quite a lot the image, especially for example if you look at the grass or the surroundings, the reflections of the glass or even the facade. No, so you can improve a lot the images without taking so much time and this so big learning curve that you need to do like really good 3D images. Or this another project again of one of the students. Sometimes the stones, for example, it's super difficult to do it well in regular programs or sometimes concrete. And now with this AI, for example, I think it looks much better. It looks more real, even the shadows, the light notes, it really feels that it's a real image compared to the original one, or even this one, no? Like once again, with the sky, the light, the materials, surroundings, it's everything, compared to the original one, a much better image. It's improved. Um, what it's true, and that thing that I think you need to also realize that this is not a one-click process. In the end, you need to iterate. The first image that you produce, it's not going to be as good as you want. So you need to produce that one, keep producing, maybe move that image even to Photoshop or to another application because all of these applications have their strengths and their weaknesses. So you need to somehow develop your own workflow and iterate between apps and giving more steps until you get what you want or the quality that you were looking for. Once again, from when you have one, for example, and you only want to change the materials, just you have the control net and the LoRa's that you want, and obviously with a good prompt, then you can change the materials without changing the volume, no? So you obtain different styles, different moods, of the surroundings, if it's sunny, if it's not, if it's snowing. So you can, once you have like the project, then you can start developing with materials, and even if you do the opening a bit bigger, these kind of things. No, that's why, as I said, it's important to emphasize to use these tools not only for the final product, but during all the phases. And then, so just to end up with this lesson, next, I think it's next week, if I'm not mistaken, I will try to introduce to some of these apps that I mentioned in this lesson, so you can open up a free account and play with them a bit, so you can decide which one suits you better. And then I already have a Dropbox folder, so you will have like 3 images that I will try to modify, and you can also try to modify following my steps, and then you will realize the strengths of one of the apps, and if it suits you better. For example, if you are really good at sketching by hand, so that allows you to do quick images, or if you are a person who renders quite well but still they want to improve, or from just a facade that you do in CAD and you place it in the picture, for example, of the street of where the building is going to take place, so you can visualize better with the materials and compared to the buildings that are in the street, these kind of things. No, so everyone can start learning these techniques and see which one suits them better. Okay. So that's the end for today on the lesson. Now you can obviously ask me whenever you want related to the topic. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Enrique. You have given us a very comprehensive approach. Okay. So, and as, I think we have something very clear that artificial intelligence is not going to be only just for the use for the final product. Yes, to help us to think and to create. No? And I think another takeaway, at least from my end, is also that before using the AI abilities, no, and the skills that they can give it to us, we need to know, no, the basics,
Exactly.
and we have to be able to create from our own. No? And this maybe later I will open the floor for questions, but I would like to hear from you, no, that maybe for us more senior architects already working with younger generations, no, we know that step, those steps are missed, no, that is easier always, and sometimes we feel that there are some missing links there, no, that we are not reaching to the end, not knowing, not going through the previous steps, no. What is your experience also when you are putting, not only studying, when you are putting these new technologies into practice in your studio or in your when are you using it? Okay, when you are at what
Yeah, for
point,
me,
no, do you introduce
I
it?
use them mainly nowadays to for competitions, you know, because they give us uh, few days to produce the materials, even less than 1 month to, you know, submit all the documents they need, and uh, using these techniques helps a lot to improve the time you need to have those images prepared instead of maybe an entire week, you know, in 1 day or 2 days you can produce 3 4 images that are good enough for this phase, you know. So that helps a lot. And also for me, I try to 3D print a lot of models, you know, because I have a 3D printer, and by taking pictures of those models I can also generate images. So in that sense, my workflow, it's easier because it's like I don't lose time just to say, no, just printing or making the 3D model. It's like, no, with this 3D model that I can touch, I can take a picture of it and from it try to render some images that maybe they are not the final ones, but they allow me to decide on some topics of the building, for example.
Okay, so some more questions, not only from this session or the previous session, if you have already tried.
No, I just wanted to emphasize something that you said, that, you know, with the students, I feel that as they are not, you know, used to produce good images, even though they use artificial intelligence, the images are not that good, you know. You need to help them because they don't have this background of photography or of references of good buildings sometimes, or for example, they don't know what they want to show, you know, what's important in the building. So even if you write a prompt and you have these LoRa's and everything, it's like, yeah, but you need to know, you need to be critical about what you want to produce. And that's why I try to emphasize on that idea, because it needs time. And if you are not critical with that, if you don't have the background, if you don't have the knowledge, even though if you use these techniques, it will take you longer, for example, to get, you know, like good results. So that's why it's still important to have all these lessons before about collages and about architecture, history, photography, everything, you know. So like,
Okay, thank you. Any more questions or comments or even contributions? Because in this group, Enrique, you need to know that there are people who are using already artificial intelligence in the practice.
Yeah, no, maybe a lot of people have already trained some LoRa's. So
yeah, most probably. So any comments, any suggestions?
I have a question, Enrique. I just got to know that you are a conservation architect. So maybe, you know, from the perspective of conservation, built heritage conservation, you know, we would like to have your opinion on the use of these technologies, maybe in the next session, if you could help us understand how, you know, conjectural reconstruction of ruins or something like that, maybe if we could arrive at some point, you know, where it is helpful in our field.
Okay, I will try to talk to some guys here in the university that deal more than I do in these topics to see how maybe we can introduce some things related to that. Because, for example, I'm more, you know, focused on, for example, if you have buildings of Le Corbusier or Mies, you know, from the 90s, that maybe they are unbuilt projects. If you train some LoRa's and you use these techniques, maybe you can recreate those buildings. But for me, those are like maybe easier to do than with the historical ones, you know, that as I maybe understand, you know, that, you know, with that are more heritage, you know, so to speak.
Correct. I get your point.
Yes, please, there is someone who wants to ask a question. Please go ahead.
Good evening, ma'am. Good evening, sir. Sir, I have a question. With so many AI tools coming up every single day,
yeah, I know.
as a design studio, which is the best tool? Like we've been using Midjourney for a pretty long time. We are using Sora, we are using DALI, and we are using Stable Diffusion. But it gets really difficult to invest in so many softwares at the same time.
I know.
So
The thing
what is the right platform?
For me, the one that I use and the ones that I use with the students, it's Bisoid. That's why I put it here. It's for free, but with the paid subscription. But what you need to understand also is like stable diffusion is like the base of everything. You know, Bisoid in the end use their own models, but they are based on stable diffusion. That's why I said, like, okay, if you really want to invest in these kind of things because you want to be like a professional 3D person, then it's better maybe to get like a high-end computer, pay for a GPU and everything. But if it's for your own studio, for example, Bisoid, I find it's a nice one. At least for the type of architecture that I usually do, is the one that I found to be the best. And also Photoshop, because Photoshop, they have also artificial intelligence. So what I usually do is using Visoid, take the image, take it back to Photoshop, do some things in Photoshop, take it back once again to Visoid. So it's some kind just going back and forth. So that's why I also said, like, it's not just one click and it's there. So, but still,
Sir, I also wanted.
Yeah, sure.
Sorry. Yeah. Sir, I also wanted to ask about this new tool which Chaos Group guys have launched, and they've, I think they've collaborated with Evolve Labs, and they've come up with a tool called Veras AI.
I know. Whereas in the end, it's like an add-on, and you can use it if you have, Revit or other programs. But in the end, what they do is just take your image and, so you can, that's why, I mean, for me, it's okay, it's an add-on, but it's not really understanding your 3D model. They still use these contour nets and everything. I think in the future, because I've seen some examples around in beta phases, that maybe this artificial intelligence will start to understand the 3D model itself. That will give total control, And I think in Blender, they are starting to do some experiments with that. But I cannot tell when that will come, because this is evolving every day, as you said, like, okay, so many tools, and but I think it will come. But right now what these models do is just analyze your image, and then they produce pixel by pixels, so they don't understand your 3D model entirely. That's why Evolve Lab, okay, it's good. And as I said, Chaos Group, they bought it. So I imagine that for V-Ray, they will try to implement that kind of technology, but I don't know. They will take time.
Sir, can I also add something?
Yeah.
I was just experimenting with Veras AI, and they have an option for uploading your 3D model in the OBJ format.
I know.
So,
And for example, in Visoid too, but in the end, even though you upload your 3D model, what you obtain there, it's just an image, and still image of that
right.
3D model. It's not like, okay, you move it and suddenly the image changes, It's not like that.
Right. Right. So they are not using the 3D, spatial data. They are just using the image which the object generates for a single
Exactly.
frame. You mean to say that?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
At least that's what they told me. Maybe they are still evolving, and I don't know, and maybe I'm mistaken.
Okay.
But right now, I don't think they are doing it like, okay, the 3D model, and the 3D model is there and they understand it. Okay, but
Sir, once again, the final question. If you can name only one software which will, kind of help us to generate, will it be Midjourney or will it be the software that you suggested?
for me, I would prefer Visoid, because Midjourney, for example, is like, it lacks control for me.
Okay.
For me,
Thank you.
because in the end, when
Thank
you
you so
use
much.
these more advanced apps, you can still generate only with prompts. But with Midjourney,
Thank
you
you.
cannot generate with control nets and LoRa's, and so
Right.
all these sliders that gives you more refined appearance, So that's why.
Sir, can we please get a link for that website or that app that you're talking
No,
about?
you I think you have it on the screen. No, it's called Bsoid with B. I don't know if you can see with the presentation. It's there.
Yeah,
Okay.
we can see it.
Okay.
But we can also write it in the chat. I will write it now in the chat.
Thank
No,
you.
I mean,
Thank you so much, sir.
I use this one, and I talk to these guys on this app, and they are also using this app. Is also being used in universities in Norway and Sweden. So somehow it's like they know what they're doing. The problem with these apps are how to use them and not be like expecting too much at first. Like, as I said, you need to iterate between some apps. It's not like, okay, I use this one and suddenly, or in one click, my image is perfect. It's not going to happen, at least not right now. We will see in the future if technology develops even more, but that's how it is right now.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
The website has been shared already in the chat for your information, that is soit.com. And some more questions. As you know, as you see, Enrique, many people have already been working hard. So I'm looking forward to the final product, because they are working also with the virtual reality and creating images, and we are looking forward to see the results. Okay, I think we are expectant now, but we'll be happy to see what they have been up to. But I just wanted to ask, if there is no more questions, and I'm sure we can finalize this session. What do the students, or what do we need to get ready with for the next session? No, you were saying that you are going to share the Dropbox. No, I think you should share also the link for that Dropbox. But when are you going to put those information or documents or whatever in that Dropbox?
The images
now
are already there. They are already
Okay.
there, because maybe if somebody wants to start trying, but I know if you use the free version of Bisoid, for example, you get like 30 credits or something like that. So if you waste them, you will need to add another email account or whatever. So you need to be to take that to account. You know that it's not going as it's free. It's limited. So if you want to use it like continuously, you will need to change from accounts. Okay.
So your advice will be to wait till the next session, and then
I
after
think
you
so,
have
because if they really feel that it's a tool that they can use, maybe they can decide if they pay a subscription or no, or they even try another one. That's something that in the end, because for me this is the one that it works for me, but as I always show some others, and maybe they are more interested in others. That's why I think for people that already know these technologies, maybe they use another one and it's not a problem. So
okay, very good. So if there are no many more questions, we leave it here. So we will go through the presentation once and again. As you know, these sessions are recorded and will be shared with every one of you, so you can go back to it and get all the information you may require. So be ready for the next session. We will have a much more practical approach, and we'll be able to do some exercises. And yeah, so looking forward to it. Enrique, thank you very much, and
thank
hope
you.
to see you next week.